Hi, it's Teacher Mike from PhuketPALS.org. Today we're going to have a little look into the GED Social Studies test because this is a part of the test that many students fear, and I don't think you should. If you're prepared properly, you'll be fine, okay? Now the test itself is 70 minutes long and there are 35 questions, so this is not a lot of time per question. You have to be primed for this test. You have to really know what to expect and what the questions are going to ask of you. Okay, you don't want any surprises in this test because you don't have the time to think extensively about them. Now, within the test itself, there are 4 content areas, okay? Civics and government, US history, economics, geography and the world. Now, as you can see, the most weighty of these 4 areas, of 50%, is civics and government. This also is the most feared part of the GED Social Studies test. You have to learn concepts like democracy, federalism. You have to know how the US federal government is split up, how it operates, and you have to know many parts, just lots and lots of information, okay? Now, more importantly, you have to be able to apply these concepts to the questions asked. It's not just a matter of repeating what you've learned in a textbook. You have to apply concepts, and they're the higher order thinking skills that some students find tricky. But don't worry, we'll teach you all about this in later videos. It's 50%. Next is US history at 20%. You go back as far as Columbus with the US history, and you go right up until the present day. So it's a full sweep, really, of US history, the entire history of the US. And yeah, you get lots of kind of primary sources, secondary sources, small paragraphs, long paragraphs, and you have to analyze those. You have to do many other things as well. But again, remember, you don't have to remember long lists of facts and dates like you might have done in another history test at school. You don't. You need a general overview of historical periods, okay, and then you have to be able to apply those ideas to questions. So again, we'll come on to that later. Economics is next at 15%. It's a smaller chunk of the test. In this, you need to know basic economic concepts and be able to apply those to questions. You need to also be able to interpret graphs, tables, and things like that. The fourth and final section of the test, worth 15%, is geography and the world. Okay, here it's a lot of work with maps, also with tables of information, short paragraphs, and again applying geographical concepts to questions. Okay, so there are the 4 content areas. There they are. Next we'll move on to the skills you need to succeed in this test. Skill 1 is determining main and central ideas. Okay, so perhaps you have a short paragraph and it's written maybe, in the 18th century, so it's Old English. It's quite difficult. You get a lot of these in this test. You might be asked to identify the main idea of this particular extract. Also, you might be asked to infer what you think the writer was trying to do with this particular extract, why he wrote this. Next, you might be asked to find a conclusion for the particular paragraph. Next, analysing words, events and ideas in social studies context. Okay, so you might get words within paragraphs that you're asked to give meaning to, and this would be again in a historical context or a context of civics and government, whatever. You could be asked to analyse an event. It could be the impact of an event, the importance of it, and things like this. Also, evaluating writer's reasoning and evidence. So, does the writer of an extract provide enough evidence to make his argument strong, to make it weighty? Does he reason effectively within the paragraph, or are there any weak parts to his reasoning? You might be asked to pick these out. Interpret date, statistics from graphs and charts. Okay, so you might have to, so that should be data. Interpreting data, statistics from graphs and charts. Let me just change that. There we go. Interpreting data, statistics from graphs and charts. So again, remember, graphs and charts and statistics aren't just for maths. You also get them in social studies. You get little elements of math sometimes in the social studies test, so be careful, okay? You might get a graph, you might get a paragraph to go with that graph, and you have to make comparisons between the data on the graph and the paragraph itself. So, tricky enough, okay? Next thing we'll talk about are the question types. These are things you should expect when you're at your computer on test day. You've got multiple choice questions. You have drop-down questions where a little menu drops down. Fill in the blank. Well, quite simply, you just write the word in the blank space. Hotspot, which is a new addition to the test, which is you have to click on various parts of a graph or a diagram and say which parts are the correct part. Drag and drop is where you drag a little box of information or a word and put it in the correct place on the screen. Okay, so there you have it. They are the content areas, the skills needed, and the question types in the GED Social Studies test. So I hope this little video was helpful for you. I'm Teacher Mike from PhuketPALS.org, so please join me again next time. Thank you.